For me, that was a great performance. It was dominant. It was a career-best victory. And yet, I'm pretty damn sure Emanuel Navarrete is going to continue to have to push back against a certain doubt, a certain negativity, because he's not in the mold of what is supposed to work. It confuses you. And he's going to have to keep fighting harder to make people a believer. I think certain little silly comments like weight bully will pop up, especially when you have something of the size disparity there was between Navarrete and Valdez. He is going to have to really dig in deep to turn heads, because this was supposed to be his first real big win, his breakthrough moment. But I think because there wasn't a stoppage, and of course Shakur Stevenson had already whipped Valdez so easily, it's kind of taken the shine off this, what is a very, very good victory. I couldn't say I agreed with that card that was 116-112. I really didn't see this as a competitive fight. And the total hyperbole, as you can expect from the likes of Joe Tessitore, god damn him, on Top Rank, such a noisy individual, just barking for no reason. This was not an absolute classic. You had two men sat ringside, Morales and Barrera. They had an absolute classic in 2000. I watched that. That was unbelievable. This was basically a one-sided ass-whooping. The way Valdez conducted himself and kept trying in the fight and after, the way he spoke. Tremendous credit to the sport. But that was one nasty eye, and that was the evidence of just eating so many punches. I question what CompuBox said in terms of landed punches. I thought maybe Navarrete landed 100 more. And of course, it's dependent on what the guys are pushing the buttons right outside. They were probably giving as much credit to Valdez, which was a very pro-Valdez crowd. They were cheering that much more when he threw his shots, but I often saw them just go past Navarrete's shoulders. He was ducking underneath them, and he keeps his face out of the way very well. That helps to explain why he was pretty much without a mark after the final bell. And it also kind of almost asks the question of, what's more important, having good instincts or having good technique? Navarrete clearly has a lot of the former. He has a great feel of where he is in the ring, just probing at you with a lazy-looking jab. He only really puts the power on the shots when he feels he's got you out of position. And look how mid-combination, he'll just pause. He'll stop with that feint that he does when he's about to throw in the left uppercut. He'll check where you are position-wise and change his combinations accordingly. Chop one to the body, hit you just as you're drifting out of range. He's very aware and he adapts on the fly to what's happening. That's an innate skill. You're not going to teach that with technique. And so there are very little tells in his work. And Valdez was finding that very difficult to deal with. You've got shots that are slow. They look kind of slow, but they're delivered in this easy way where your radar doesn't pick them up. It reminds me of this video where there's that martial artist, is it Michael J. White? And he's talking to the now deceased Kimbo Slice, that kind of Street Fighter MMA guy, right? And he's getting him to hold up his hand. And he's saying, right, you try and move your hand out the way before I hit it. And every time he tries to do a fast punch, Kimbo sees the little tell in the shoulder as the muscles twitch, and he's able to move his hand out of the way. But when Michael J. White just throws a very lazy jab, he can't move his hand out of the way, and he doesn't understand why. But it's because there's no tell. It just goes, boop, there. Oh, you can't do anything about it. And that is very much a quality that Navarrete has. Whereas you've got Valdez by contrast. He's so tight at the shoulders. And whenever he threw his much quicker hooks, it got all the crowd buzzed. They're all reacting. But I was watching it thinking, right, that missed. And while it's not technically correct, Navarrete has this way of just shelling himself up, almost as he's stumbling over himself with his weird drunk footwork, feet crossing and all that. And he's just got a way of avoiding the major shots. And so all the narrative of Valdez being the smarter fighter, the sharper guy, it didn't really show that much. Okay, we know Navarrete's got a pretty good size advantage, but he uses it very well. He's a smart guy. He reads the situation. He mixes up his attack. He's not too reckless because he'll take his foot off the gas and just have a look at you. You know, he'll find out where he is in the ring by just habitually bouncing his back off the ropes, then going back towards you. He's so at home there. The guy did not look like he'd been in a fight. And so the people who don't get Navarrette's style, they're now trying to rationalize what happened. And they're saying, oh, you know, Valdez didn't do this, he didn't fight smart enough. He wasn't allowed to. He was faced with a completely confusing opponent. There's little bits about Navarrete, as I've said, kind of remind me of the great Carlos Monzon at middleweight, with the way he delivers his shots. These are not textbook shots. These aren't in they aren't in the classic combination register. He's just letting loose with what he feels like, and he keeps getting away with it. This was the key thing. If he had been a bit mentally affected by what had happened against him with Liam Wilson, it would have taken away some of his magic. But even when he had to ship a pretty good hook, he was like, I don't care, I'm throwing with you, now I'm throwing these confusing shots again. And it put Valdez back in his mental little box. The name that I think is still going to be most associated with Navarrete now, in terms of a big fight, is Shakur Stevenson. Isn't he at lightweight now, though? I don't like it when people just keep hopping up weights every other fight. The other opponent is maybe Naoya Inoue. Now, of course, he is still only at super bantam, and he's just come up to that weight. So he'd have to come up another 2 weights first. Navarrete is younger than Inoue by 2 years, but what an interesting physical clash that would be. Navarrete is huge. He is confusing. He is tough. It would almost be like Inoue's Margarito. What Margarito, I should say, was to Pacquiao. It would be that kind of situation. But both fights don't really make much sense right now, particularly the Inoue one. I would like to see Navarrete fight Shakur Stevenson. There's not that many guys at Super Feather. You do need a good dance partner to make the big bucks. And Navarrete is not going to be getting that credit, I don't think, as I've said. This one has gone a little bit under the radar. It hardly had any hype. I think he's won convincingly. He deserves a pat on the back, but he's only probably really got it from his own team. Now, the Shakur fight is dangerous. He is the rightful favourite. But unlike most other people, I think Navarrete has a real chance, because he will not be dictated to unless it's just purely through athleticism. He's tough. He will continue to try and impose his own weird way until he is stopped. We've seen he's been hurt before, and it doesn't change the way he fights. This is a dangerous guy. But what did you make of the fight? Definitely wasn't an instant classic, but you've got to give it to Valdez with how gritty he is. Again, a credit to the sport. To see a guy try so earnestly, and you saw how upset he was as well, and just the way he conducts himself. It's sportsmanship in a nutshell. Again, I can't really see how people saw it as competitive. Was there even one clear round for Valdez? I don't think so. But what do we make of the Navarrete-Stevenson fight? Stevenson has already said he would be happy for it. What kind of chance do you give the crazy octopus-like Mexican against Shakur?